Before we get into this video, I don't normally do trigger warnings, but I feel it's appropriate and maybe even imperative due to what we're about to discuss. So, if you struggle with any type of suicidal or self-harm tendencies, this might be one you want to sit out. I'll have a link in the description for the best number you can call, and I strongly recommend that you talk to someone, whether it be a friend, a loved one, some trusted person that you can speak to, or if nothing else, at least the hotline provided in the link in the description. Not link, but, you know. With all of that said, I want to talk about MAID. That's an acronym for Medical Assistance in Dying. The law in Canada has changed. Medical assistance in dying, MAID, is a process through which a doctor or nurse practitioner assists an individual at their request to intentionally end their life. MAID is administered with the aids of drugs that can be taken orally or administered intravenously. It's like an IV. No matter which option is chosen, a physician or nurse practitioner is always present during the process. Deciding to have medical assistance in dying is deeply personal. When thinking about the end of your life and saying goodbye to those you love, you may feel a deep sense of grief and sadness. You may also feel grief to have some control, you may also feel relief to have some control over when and how you pass, and knowing a plan is in place. Anyone considering this should talk with their family, their loved ones, and anyone else who will support them through the process. Your healthcare team is committed to honoring and respecting your decisions, whatever they may be. In the following sections, you will find details on the process and further information to answer questions you or your loved ones may have. So, a few things on this. First of all, personally, I believe that people should have the ability, should they want to, end their own life on their own terms. I believe if somebody wants to put themselves out of their own misery, so to speak, I don't see why it should be illegal for them to do so. I think it's one of those issues where I think there shouldn't be any legal things in people's way of that. Rather, it should just simply be an issue of if that's the route they want to go, or if they want to do something else. Now, I want to be clear about this. While I do believe that people should have that right, I also very much believe that it should be a last resort. I believe that the decision to take your own life has to be one of, if not the worst way for you to go. Because that is where you are choosing and you are saying, there is no way life can ever get better. It's all downhill from here. And I can understand if somebody wants to do that. For an instance, like, I don't know, maybe they've been in some kind of accident, some kind of accident involving chemicals even, where their face or body has been completely deteriorated and it will never look or function the way that it did previously. Maybe somebody lost a limb and they decide they don't want to live anymore after that, or they had to be or were, maybe they were even like a prisoner of war or something, and they were castrated chemically or otherwise, and they don't want to live anymore after that. Any of these things, right? There could be many different things. Maybe you feel like you're a burden to those around you, and you don't want to be in a position where the only way you can survive is by being a burden to those around you. That's one that I struggle with a lot myself. I personally, I don't really want to get very old. I don't. I always thought I don't want to get old past the point of like, I don't know, 70s, maybe 80s. But there's also the reality that with how technology progresses and all that, quality of life could improve greatly by the time I actually get to 70 or 80. We'll see. I'm 25 now, so here's hoping, right? The thing is, nobody wants to die. Nobody looks forward to in their life dying. I mean, I guess some zealots and stuff do, but most people don't actually look forward to dying. Most people want to live. And I believe that it is in the interest of everybody, societally speaking, to try to make this life as best as we can for everybody, make it as best as we can as possible. And I think it is good to put systems in place to achieve those ends. And I don't think that the answer is something like medical assistance in dying for things like avoiding poverty.
Imagine choosing death over homelessness. That's what one St. Catharines man is contemplating. Tonight on City News, we continue to delve into medically assisted dying and how some believe it is their only option to living in poverty.
Are you afraid to die?
Who isn't? Yeah,
See, you can see right here, made as an alternative to poverty. That's super dystopian.
Amir Farsood has applied for
who isn't?
living in poverty.
Are you afraid to die?
Who isn't? Yeah,
Yeah, so I mean, even right there, the person who's asking this man here, he's afraid to die, and you can hear the fear in his voice right there as he says, "I am." Like I said, nobody really wants to die.
Amir Farsood has applied for medically assisted dying, known as MAID.
And like I was just saying, so if we look at this man here, he's fully functioning on his own. Yeah, he has like all this, medication down here and stuff, but a lot of people have, medication and different things. These are actually things that I would say that can be positive as far as helping people to live longer and extending and improving the quality of their life, because, without some of these things, he might not be doing as well as he is. But, we can see he's moving around pretty well. Yeah, he's got a cane, but, he's got assistants to help him, be dependent or independent and still, at least for the most part, live life on his own terms.
He lives in constant agony due to a back injury, but has started the process for end of life because his rooming house is up for sale and he can't find anywhere else to live that he can afford.
So that's the important part right there. They did say that he has this back disease or whatever they just said. What was it?
Rooming house is up for sale and injury, but has started the process for
back injury. So we can see the way he's kind of hunched over, the way he has that cane and all these different things, right? He is struggling to live, to function in this world, we'll say, but he is still managing. And his reason, as the newscaster just said there, is not his reason for looking into MAID is an alternative to poverty. It's not because he's saying, "Oh, I can't deal with the pain anymore. I want to be put out of my misery," or anything like that. He's saying, I don't want to be homeless.
End of life because his rooming house is up for sale and he can't find anywhere else to live that he can afford. He barely survives on Ontario disability support payments, which are just over $1,200 a month. He doesn't want to die, but being homeless is not an option.
That right there. He doesn't want to die, but being homeless is not an option. That tells you everything you need to know about this person's mindset and why this is such a destructive thing to encourage, for lack of a better word. Because he isn't choosing, and I'm going to keep hammering this home. He isn't choosing, he can't handle the pain or anything like that, or there isn't the proper medical assistance for him, or we just don't have the technology to help him with what he's dealing with. Any of those things. No, he is saying, what he is functionally saying is there aren't people or systems in place to help him. So he thinks the best alternative is just not exist at all. Now, as we get into this further here, I want to be clear about my own experience with this kind of thing. I have, quite honestly, contemplated ending my own existence because depression, depression and things just not going well at all, and feeling like there's no way for things to get better. I never had on top of that any kind of fears of homelessness or anything like that. I have struggled with that in the past, although I've always been fortunate to have somebody to help me through those times, even while looking for a new place to live or a new line of work or any of those different kind of things, a new job, any of that. But this man, I've had the help in different ways to get me out of certain situations. This man doesn't have any of that. And quite honestly, while I have been fortunate to have family and friends that have cared enough about me to help me in my times of need with things like this, not everybody does. And you can end up with people, especially older people, who might have their family gone, or a lot of their friends gone just due to age, or maybe their own disabilities and different things that they're struggling with. In a way, it's kind of the younger generation's job to sort of care for the elderly that is less advantaged than they are. And there are systems in place that help us to do that, us being people like me who's 25. One of the things that taxes go to.
I know in my present health condition I wouldn't survive it anyway.
Farsood meets the criteria for MAID, physical suffering due to disability that cannot be relieved. His doctor, who knows Farsood's real reason for MAID is his fear of being homeless, signed off on the application in August. Farsood needs a second to do the same.
So let's get back to that.
There's a signed off on the application in Farsood's real reason.
Okay, so we see here, right? A legitimate reason for wanting to, go through with MAID is physical or psychological suffering, disability. He does meet those criteria. But she's even saying that his doctor knows the real reason he's doing it is because he's afraid of being homeless. Again, the whole point of this is that he is not even using this medical procedure for the reason that it's actually supposed to be used for. An example of this, I would say, and bear with me here, it might not be the best example, but it's the best I can think of off the top of my head, would be when people, say, for example, do things like, they will kind of fake or lie about having a type of illness or disease or what have you in order to get drugs that they'll then take recreationally. This is that sort of thing, but on a much more drastic level. I mean, again, the doctor even knows that it's not the medical issues that he has that make him want to end his own life. Because here's the thing, here's what needs to be understood about this too. Even if he didn't have the medical issues, he would still be in this position where he would want to be ending his own life, because the bottom line of all of this here is that he doesn't want to be homeless. And I can't blame him for that. Nobody wants to be homeless. But the issue here is not any medical thing. It's that he doesn't want to be homeless. This is a what's the word I'm looking for? this is an issue that can be addressed by proper systemic, and this is a housing issue and such. This is not a medical issue.
That cannot be relieved. His doctor, who knows Farsood's real reason for MAID is his fear of being homeless, signed off on the application in August. Farsood needs a second to do the same. There's a 90-day waiting period. He believes he could potentially access MAID in about a month.
I don't wish to be dead, even with the pain, even with the meds. I still want to be here.
Yeah, so again, that's the whole thing. He doesn't actually want to die. He doesn't want to use the procedure for what it's even supposed to be used for. He just doesn't want to be homeless.
The CEO of Dying with Dignity Canada, a charity for end-of-life rights, says the organization has raised concerns about cases like this with the federal government.
The fact that people are feeling compelled to apply for MAID or to even ask about MAID because they can't get the basic fundamentals to live a life it's shameful. You know, as a country, as a government, we should be ashamed.
100% agreed. 100%. Absolutely. Yes. Exactly.
Medically assisted dying became legal in Canada in 2016. It was only for people facing imminent death. Accessibility was expanded last March.
We have created a system where ending of life is an easier and cheaper solution than actually investing in healthcare and social support.
Trudeau Lemons is a professor of law and bioethics at U of T. He argues MAID devalues the life of people with disabilities who often live in poverty.
I actually had not expected that it would go so fast and that this particular issue of people living in poverty asking for medical assistance and dying would so rapidly take off in the Canadian context, and that physicians would sign off on it.
So what is the solution in your mind?
The solution is, in my view, to go back to the drawing table.
The Netherlands has monthly commissions that review troubling assisted dying cases. Canada does not. It does publish yearly stats. The latest shows last year MAID accounted for 3.3% of all deaths.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, so I mean, really, this just kind of, well, we'll let the video finish first.
In Canada, or 10,064 people. That's a 32.4% increase over the year before. 65% of cases report cancer as the underlying reason. 81% of requests resulted in the administration of MAID. The average age is 76. Amir is 54. While he doesn't want to die, he wants to have the choice.
At the end of the day, it's a personal decision.
City News asked the federal government for comment on this story. In an email response, it points out there are enhanced safeguards and states it is highly unlikely 2 doctors would deem a person eligible for MAID if they had reason to believe their, quote, suffering could be relieved on a sustained basis by access to reasonable and available treatment and social services. Canada is one of the most liberal countries in the world when it comes to medically assisted dying. In March, it's further expanding eligibility to include people with mental disorders. It's expected MAID will be about 4% of all deaths in this country. That's in line with Belgium and the Netherlands. We will keep in touch with Amir Farsood.
Okay. So, yeah, this is a pretty heavy one. My whole point with this, and what I think, what I would like the takeaway, if you will, is ultimately that I do believe people in general should have the right to end their life when and how they see fit. And again, I think if you are struggling with some insane illness, and I don't mean mental, I mean, it could be mental illness, but I mean, like wild, crazy illness, the way we use insane colloquially, or other kind of physical disability, or you just don't want to live anymore. I don't think that that's something you should be forced to do. There's a reason that when you are in a coma, for example, your family or whoever has authority, so to speak, over you in that instance has the ability to have you on life support or pull the plug. Myself personally, if I was developing dementia or something like this, which is just irreversible, my quality of life would just drastically change for the worse and could never get better. Yeah, I would definitely want to pursue, and I do like that organization is called Dying with Dignity, because I think that is a very important aspect of it. You get to you get to die, and you still keep your dignity. I was thinking about this just a while ago about how many there's this thing known as the 27 Club, where a lot of celebrities throughout time have died at 27. And I thought about how it must be interesting to die without having to experience any of the things that generally come with getting older, without your body, let's be honest, breaking down from age. And it was just an interesting concept to me, how it is possible, of course, for people to die, pass on, however you want to phrase it, in a way that is still them exercising autonomy and right over their own life, up to the point of ending it. Now, of course, that isn't what was happening with. That's not what happened with like the 27 Club. But it's just an interesting thing to me, generally speaking. Like I said, me personally, the age the average age they have is probably around the age I'd want to go myself. I don't know. Like that guy was saying, nobody wants to die. But the important thing here is that while I believe that program should exist for those that want to pursue it, and I do believe that people should have the right to end their life when they see fit, at the same time, nobody, nobody should be put in a position where they feel like they can't get any assistance from anybody because they have nobody that they know personally in their personal life that cares for them and is able to help them out with something like homelessness. Nobody should be facing these types of systemic issues that could be helped through social programs. And the big issue with all of this that I want to make really clear is that I see this as a way to offload the people that are less desirable to let's be honest, right-wing politicians. I see it as a way for people, because I mean, look, for a long time now, we've heard people, right-wing politicians especially, say things and shoot back with like, oh, if you care about homeless people so much, open your home to them. No, obviously that isn't the answer. The answer is to develop certain social safety nets and things to give homeless people homes, but not for everybody to just open up their home to random people. You need to provide, put systems in place to help those that are homeless. And in fact, I'm going to try and find it here. There's a great show I love. Adam Ruins Everything. Ah, here we go. I highly recommend watching this video, listening to it. It's a it's more of a podcast kind of thing. Adam Conover is great in general, by the way, so I would just recommend him in general. Here he talks with, as we can see, Rudy Salinas and Dorothy Edwards in an effort to solve homelessness, and they talk about different systems and organizations they have in place to help the homeless with getting homes, which is their ultimate problem. They need homes. There are groups of people, especially on the right, that will shoot back with any kind of injustices you might put forward, like, oh, people are starving, people are homeless, and they'll say, well, why don't you give to them through charity? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? Rather than addressing things and trying to make systemic changes to these systemic issues. Understand that these are just passing the buck. This is just saying, no, you. It doesn't resolve anything. It doesn't get any of us anywhere. Because they don't care. There are many people, especially politically speaking, that just do not care about these systemic issues. And there will be those that try to make you feel like you're the problem because you won't open up your home to homeless people. Or maybe you can't donate your time at a soup kitchen or something like that for those that are, less fortunate. And don't get me wrong, those things are good. If you want to help in those kind of ways, those are good things to do. But it doesn't change the fact that these are systemic issues that need addressed and dealt with properly. Again, I do highly recommend checking out this video. I think it's a very good video. I think Adam did a great job addressing. I'll be honest with you. I saw it years ago, so I don't remember the specifics, but I do remember that what they addressed and what they offered as a real solution was basically just opening up organizations to help homeless people get homes. It's not rocket science. You have someone who's homeless, give them a home. You have someone who's hungry, give them food. You have someone who doesn't have a job, give them a job. All these different things. The problem, though, especially with homelessness, and this is what they go into with what Adam goes into with the person and everything, people that he talks to, is that in order to have a home, you have to, to afford a home, you have to have a job. But in order to have a job, you have to have a home. You do a resume, you put your address, and the under the bridge isn't really gonna help, So, yeah, there's a lot that goes into it, and there are definitely things that can be done, systemically speaking, to resolve these issues. But when people, if you bring these kind of issues up and people fire back at you, making you feel like it's your job, no. There are people in power, people in the government and such, that we elect to do these kind of things because it's their job. It's not your job. It is their job to listen to you. And if they fire back at you when you try to tell them, hey, why don't we do this to try to change things? It's like, well, that's your job. The fuck did we vote you in for? Well, what are you doing? So, yeah. Anyway, like I said, I know this is a tougher subject, a pretty difficult issue, but when I saw that video and I heard about this MAID thing and all that, I had to talk about it somehow, some way. So I hope that I have offered something of value to those of you, maybe even, brought it to your attention, somebody that didn't even know. I don't know, something. Anyway, don't really know how to wrap this up. So, as always, these are just my thoughts. Let me know what yours are in the comments down below. Follow me on social media for more. Subscribe when we're about to stay up to date. Leave a like if you like. And if not, I hope you find something you do like. Again, please use the number provided in the description if you need to call and talk to someone. Other than that, take care of each other in the comments especially, and take care of each other out there in general. Later, guys. Peace and love.